朋友们，中国科技产品用过的都说好，从硬件到软件，这些原本好用的中国产品走进美国企业，让华盛顿的一些人坐不住了。据 CNBC 电视台报道，美国国会众议院下辖的2个委员会已经开始对美国企业使用中国开源模型的相关情况展开调查。据悉呢，被调查的美国公司包括旅行房屋租赁公司爱彼迎，以及全美最大的外卖平台多尔大西公司。那这家公司它有几千万的用户，几百万家餐厅，每天干的事情就是送披萨、送汉堡、送炒面，就是美国版的美团了。结果呢，就这么一家公司被众议院2个委员会联手调查，罪名是用了中国 AI 模型写代码，调查强度居然跟查华为、中兴一个级别。8月14号前要交出全部使用记录，8月21号负责人到国会做闭门说明。事情的起因是一篇技术帖。7月初多尔大西的联合创始人 Andy Fang 在社交媒体上分享了一组测试数据。公司把月之暗面的 Kimi K2.6 接入了内部代码审查系统，低阶任务交给他，高难度的任务留给美国模型。注意咯，是 Kimi 的 2.6， 不是最新出来的 Kimi K3。结果很有意思，Kimi 加 Cloud Fiber 5的组合在105个历史代码变更中抓出了537个真实的缺陷，每次的成本 3.8亿美元。而纯美国组合只抓出了504个，成本还更高 3.9亿美元。关键缺陷检测的中国组合抓出了 80%， 而美国组合是 62.5%， 更便宜更好用。可就这么一些技术上的一点事情，一个工程师晒了一组测试数据，仅此而已。但在今天的华盛顿，这就成了一个重大的国家安全事件。国会调查函里有句话说得很直白，大意就是我们承认中国模型性能强、成本低、便于定制，但是这些实用的因素不能消除安全风险。你看前半句承认产品力，后半句说但是我还是要搞你，逻辑链是断的。如果性能强、成本低都不能成为选择的理由，那什么才能呢？企业选 AI 不看性能、不看成本，看什么？看护照吗？而美国国会的答案就是这么直接，护照是美国的，再贵再差也要用；护照是中国的，那再好再便宜也要审。这是自由贸易吗？这只是技术版的血统论。整件事件的荒诞感从几个细节也能品出来。多尔大西的2个创始人安迪·范和 CEO 徐迅都是华裔，华盛顿某些人眼里这天然就多了一层需要审查的理由。而更讽刺的是，今年4月，多尔大西刚给白宫还送过外卖。川普在电视直播里亲手把芝士汉堡送给了西裔工作人员。白宫吃多尔大西的汉堡没问题，可多尔大西的工程师用中国 AI 写代码就构成了国家安全了。汉堡能够过审，代码不能过审。这个逻辑的终点是 AI 安不安全不是由代码质量说了算，而是由模型的注册地说了算。多大喜公布的数据其实已经把选择题做完了。同样的事情中国组合多抓了33个缺陷，召回率高 11.6 个百分点，每次还便宜10美分。企业没有为了省钱而牺牲质量，而更便宜的方案反而质量更高。市场经济的基本原则是花更少的钱买更好的东西，这个原则在中美 AI 领域一发生，国会跳出来说不行，你得用更贵但更差的。国家安全它只是名义，实质是用行政手段替美国企业来兜底。多大西也不是第一家了，今年4月，同一个委员会已经查了 Airbnb 以及编程工具 Cursor， 理由都是中国的 AI。Airbnb 用阿里的 Q1， 而 Cursor 用中国的开源模型做代码辅助。从 AI 巨头到租房平台再到外卖公司，调查网正在向一切使用中国 AI 的美国企业蔓延，用的企业越多，名单越长。可是查到现在，查出的安全漏洞数量是0所谓的后门和潜伏代理，没有任何公开证据证明存在。调查的逻辑是你无法自证绝对安全，所以你有罪。这个逻辑套在任何产品上它都成立，但国会只针对中国 AI。为什么这么着急呢？因为焦虑是实打实的呀。中国开源模型正在用产品力攻城略地。美国 AI 巨头内部其实已经分裂了。OpenAI 和 Anthropic 一边在国会游说 要求封杀中国模型，一边呢在公开信里还支持开放权重。微软7月底刚刚表态考虑开放自研模型，打法越来越像中国的开源路线。巨头嘛，其实自己都想走开源路线，但是又在国会施压不让中国走，打不过就封杀，封杀不了企业就封杀用中国 AI 的企业。国会的真实目的调查函里也落了底了。委员会正在审查美国是否有足够的开放权重 AI 战略，以确保美国公司不会被迫在昂贵受限的美国模型和廉价高效的中国替代品之间做选择。那么翻译一下，国会担心的是美国企业不能买美国货。这场调查的终极目标是替美国 AI 巨头来锁住客户。当川普政府可能考虑限制使用中国模型的消息传出去之后呢，尚未等中国做出回应，硅谷业界其实就已经率先发起了抗议。短短1周之内美国科技巨头和中小企业接连发布了2份公开信，共同反对封禁中国模型的政策。美媒还报道7月下旬呢，英伟达首席执行官华仁逊在社交媒体上还首次发文，向华盛顿发表了一封公开信，核心的信息是开源模型是一项战略资产。这一封公开信由英伟达、微软、IBM 等等的众多企业共同签署，连谷歌和埃隆·马斯克随后也都表达了支持。其实呢，硅谷已经充分的意识到了，行业不能只依赖某个特定的模型，更重要的是封禁中国模型它根本无法取得预期的效果呀。而现在让美国担惊受怕的还不光是 Kimi 是质朴，还有老对手 DeepSeek 也没掉队一直都在舞台上。这几天新出的 V4 Flash 版本甩出的数据更让人坐不住。在业内最新的测评里DeepSeek V4 Flash 0731平均任务成本 0.03美元，综合指数呢50，而 Cloud Fabric 5的成本是 3.15美元，综合指数60。所以呢，是以不到 1% 的成本拿到了 83% 的能力。这个数据意味着什么？意味着过去大家迷信的堆参数烧算力才能出好模型的路子被 DeepSeek 用同一种方式重新定义了。一个13B 激活的 Flash 模型看着 284B 的参数每次它只激活13B， 显存和算力的消耗远远低于同效果稠密模型，跑出来的效果呢接近 Cloud Fabric 5。工具调用、全站开发、终端操作，大部分的指标追平甚至超过了贵好几倍的模型。部分的硬板还摸到了 Cloud Opus 4.8 的尾巴。那么后训练和 Engine 的对齐磨到位，小激活模型照样能干旗舰的活，卖白菜价的 token 依旧有钱赚。过去呢，大家只盯着100万 token 的单价，那个数据其实并不准确。便宜的模型可能在同一个任务上反复的试错，那么每次单价低，但是兜一圈总费用一加，可能也不便宜。去年呢，用低版本的模型改代码，一次搞不定，反复掉了好几次，改错还得回滚，搞到后来大家都没脾气了，老老实实自己改。可今年同样模型厉害多了呀，简单的任务一次搞定，刚想刷个手机消磨时间，那边已经跑完了。所以真正可怕的并不是 token 单价便宜而是完成任务的总成本已经碾压对手。其实呢，有个场景特别能说明问题。那么假设你是美国一家创业公司的 CTO， 手头紧巴巴的，账上的钱要省着花，美国大模型调用一次够你心疼半天，而中国开源模型随便用，效果还差不多。所以你选哪个呢？你选便宜的，筹资夸你精打细算；你选贵的，董事会问你为什么不选便宜的。现在国会跳出来说选便宜的要被调查，那你怎么办？要么多花钱买美国货，要么冒着被国会叫去喝茶的风险，继续用中国模型。这道题美国中小企业已经做完了，将近200项联名请愿，求政府不要切断中国的开源模型。这并不是什么政治表态，而是活命的需要。大公司它可以跟 OpenAI 签大额的合同，可初创公司连 API 费用都快付不起了，你还跟他谈国家安全？先把下个月的服务器账单付了再说吧。华盛顿的政客们他们坐在国会山里，对着多大西发传票的时候大概没有想过一个场景：旧金山一个4-5个人的小创业团队用 DeepSeek 的模型跑 Engine 一天迭代3个版本，成本低到可以忽略不计。他们根本不会在乎模型是哪个国家的， 他们在乎的是能不能跑起来，能不能省钱，能不能活下去。你要断他们的路，他们就联名反对你，这就是产品力的可怕之处。不需要游说集团，不需要政治背书，甚至不需要你承认它好，开发者自己会试会选，他们自己会算账，算完了自己做出最终的选择。国会你发100封、1000封调查函，它也改变不了这道最简单的算术题。华盛顿想靠传票来拦住这股潮水，那就比比看是传票发得快，还是代码 commit 的快。一份调查函，2个截止日期，3场听证会，查到最后查出来的不是间谍，是性价比。汉堡可以吃中国的，代码不能用中国的，这就是2026年华盛顿的最荒谬的逻辑。
We're getting word that OpenAI is lowering costs for some of its models. Let's turn over to Kate Rooney for more in today's Tech Check. Kate, what do we know?
So, Kelly, OpenAI is indeed slashing prices across the board for some of its models, dropping the cost of 2 models in particular. ChatGPT 5.6 Luna was already its cheapest model. That's dropping by 80%. And then you have another model, Terra, which is dropping by about 20% in terms of price. They're also adding what is known as fast mode, so 2 times the speed. That version is also more expensive. But it is, Kelly, the latest signal that price is really becoming a battleground in AI. OpenAI and Anthropic are seeing a lot more pressure lately from some of the open source models we've talked about out of China. In some cases, those are cheaper than the top American versions. CFOs at the same time have been grappling with their own AI budgets. And Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella has been talking about this. He talked about it on the analyst call last night. They've also tried to undercut on price with their own models and have some cheaper versions out there. And that's really been the way that they're trying to differentiate.
A new divide has opened up in AI. Open versus closed.
Scaling of open source models, I think it's going down a very dangerous path.
Open source models that are excellent should be used.
Closed AI is what most people know. OpenAI's ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude, Google's Gemini. They're most powerful models. They control the price, the rules, you pay for access. Open-weight AI is different. The model can be downloaded, inspected, customized, run on your own infrastructure, and it's often cheaper. China's DeepSeek was the wake-up call. Then Z.AI's latest GLM model, now Moonshot's Kimi K3. China is taking over.
They have a dominant share, no question.
And the biggest players in American AI, they're now calling for open source AI too. But Washington's AI strategy is still focused on hardware. Protect the chips, build the data centers, add the power, all while China gains ground in the models the world is increasingly running on.
The vast majority of humans on the planet will use Chinese models. Why? Because they're free.
I'm Deirdre Bosa. America has a chip strategy for AI. Now it needs an open source strategy. China's open source AI momentum has Washington's attention. What is less clear is what it plans to do about it. So far, the US response has centered on the risks, but it's hard to contain something built to spread. With fewer advanced chips, Chinese labs, they had to compete on efficiency. Smaller models, cheaper training, lower costs to run. And then they released many of them as open weight models, meaning developers can download and customize them, run them on their own servers. OpenAI and Anthropic, they have taken the opposite approach with their best models, keep them closed behind services that they control. But once an open model is out, it's out. So if you restrict it here, you may just sideline American developers while everyone else moves ahead. Benchmark's Peter Fenton, one of Silicon Valley's best-known venture investors, says that could backfire.
There's some discussion that that might be a coherent strategy to limit access to open weight models. I think that will have the exact opposite effect. It'll disadvantage the US.
Disadvantaged because open models are the way smaller companies compete. Most startups cannot afford to train a frontier model from scratch, and they can't always afford to run their products on the most expensive closed models. Open weights give them a cheaper base to build on, to customize and deploy. So a ban or a broad restriction, that might not actually stop Chinese models from spreading globally. It could just make it harder for American startups to keep up. America has made this kind of mistake before. It invented the semiconductor. Then it let most leading-edge chip manufacturing move to Taiwan. That looked efficient until America realized that the technology powering its economy and military depended on factories in Taiwan, an island claimed by Beijing and at the center of US-China tensions.
every single AI chip that NVIDIA designs is made in Taiwan. And we need those in our cars, in our phones, in our military equipment.
Now, Washington is spending billions of dollars through the CHIPS Act to bring more of that manufacturing home. The lesson here was simple. Something this important shouldn't depend on one outside source. But chips are only the hardware layer. Open models are the software layer and may require a different playbook. More computing power for universities and startups, government contracts for American open source models, support for the security and software needed to run them.
It is in America's interest to actually support open source and open weights.
Right now, the closest thing America has to that is NVIDIA.
It's all being built in this country. Basically, except for the open models, which is a real thing coming from China, except for NVIDIA open models, which are world-class.
Its Nemotron models are open. So are the data and the tools companies can use to customize them. NVIDIA has also organized a coalition of AI labs to build more. But NVIDIA is doing that because it fits NVIDIA's business. One company acting in its own interests, that's not the same as the country having a strategy. And the pressure for one, it's not just coming from Washington, it's now coming from the customers. A backlash is building across corporate America. Companies have spent the last few years rushing to put their data and workflows into AI. Now they're asking what they may be giving up in return. Palantir CEO Alex Karp, he put it bluntly on CNBC.
In this country, at every single enterprise I deal with, these people are livid. They're like, I am paying for tokens that create no value. These people are stealing the weights and alpha of my business.
Karp's argument is that a company's data isn't the only thing that matters. Its real advantage is everything it has learned about how to run its business, the connections between its data, its workflows, and its people. When all of that flows through someone else's closed model, the company risks giving away the very thing that makes it valuable.
By sending the data to a company that has extremely smart models, you are really giving up your business's recipe for them to copy.
And then it has to keep paying to get that intelligence back. The closed labs, Anthropic and OpenAI, they say their enterprise products protect customer data and do not use it to train their general models without permission. But the concern is bigger than whether a lab trains on the data. It's about who owns what the AI learns about your business.
They want to know they own the means of production. It's not being transferred to someone else.
Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft and one of OpenAI's biggest partners, he's now warning about the same thing. Nadella says companies need to control their own learning loop, the knowledge their AI picks up every time employees and customers use it. So if they switch models, they don't have to start over. With a closed model, the company is renting access. The provider can change the price, can change the rules, or cut off access entirely. And that isn't a theoretical risk. Earlier this year, the US government ordered Anthropic to suspend access to its new Fable and Mythos models. Customers and employees around the world, they lost access overnight.
Anthropic disabling access to its newest AI model after the government rang alarm bells about national security concerns.
The restrictions were later lifted, but the episode showed how quickly a model someone is building on can just disappear. If you don't own it, someone else can decide when you're allowed to use it. An open model cannot be taken away overnight. Running an open model, it does take more work, GPUs, engineers, safety checks, but at least a company can run the model itself and keep control of its data and costs. And this isn't only about companies. Governments don't want their most important systems dependent on a handful of American labs either. They want AI that runs inside their own borders, under their own laws, on infrastructure that they control.
Do you really want a repeat of the internet future where all our data just lies in the hands of 2 or 3 companies? Or do you want a lot more control and privacy and sovereignty over that?
For years, the selling point of American AI was trust. Now customers are asking whether trust without control is enough. And that's what makes China's open model push so powerful. Now the US tech industry is pushing Washington to pick a side. For the last few years, open source looked like a China story, but now it's an American industry story. In late July, NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang used his first post on X to share an open letter to Washington. The message: open weight AI is a strategic asset. The letter was signed by NVIDIA, Microsoft, Meta, Palantir, Hugging Face, IBM, Mozilla, Y Combinator, Perplexity, Replit, Mistral, many others. OpenAI later added its name. Google and Elon Musk followed. The argument: American AI leadership won't be judged by one frontier model, but by whether the US builds a broad open ecosystem that spreads into every sector. It's a direct challenge to the closed model business, to OpenAI and Anthropic, which have built some of the most powerful AI systems in the world. Their business depends on keeping the best models proprietary, while open weights push the market in a different direction. Because if open models get good enough for most work, OpenAI and Anthropic, they have to justify premium pricing only for the hardest tasks. Anthropic is also the only major frontier lab that still has not signed that letter. CEO Dario Amodei is among the critics of open source that argue that models could actually be more dangerous. Anyone being able to download and modify them means that bad actors also could, using them for cyber or biological attacks. Amodei wrote that it's very difficult to apply guardrails to them or monitor their usage, and once weights are released, they cannot be withdrawn. Also writing that authoritarian governments like China could use them to repress their own people or improve their military. But there's a major proof point against that security argument. In July, a closed American model went rogue. OpenAI says one of its models broke out of a cyber test and compromised Hugging Face infrastructure. And when Hugging Face tried to investigate with closed frontier models, the guardrails got in the way. So it turned to GLM 5.2, an open weight model from China. Put simply, a closed American model caused the incident, and a Chinese open weight model helped defend against it, flipping that security argument on its head.
The model that saved the day was, in fact, a Chinese AI model, and it succeeded where many US models failed.
Chinese models can still carry security and censorship risks, IP questions, but the incident does undercut the simple version of the closed model argument. Closed doesn't mean risk-free, and if only a few companies can inspect the most powerful systems, everyone else has to trust them. Now the industry is coalescing around a new position: support open weight AI. It's one that puts Washington at a decision point. It can protect today's closed AI champions, or it can invest in the broader system that could make American AI more competitive, more transparent, and harder to displace. CHIPS taught Washington what happens when a foundational technology layer moves somewhere else. Open weight AI may be the next test.